Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We got some news regarding the Grand Inquisitor himself, and I know one thing fans were really worried about, or, talking about, were like, oh, is he gonna fly? I hope he doesn't fly, because in Rebels, of course, their lightsabers spin, they fly, and it looks funny in animation, and if something looks funny in animation, it's gonna look probably very ridiculous in live action, but let's go ahead and read this. It comes from Rupert Friend, who is starring as the Grand Inquisitor. And he actually said some stuff which to me was kind of alarming and a little controversial, but I mean, I'm sure people will have their takes on it, so let's talk about it. Originally seen on the animated Star Wars Rebels, the Force-sensitive dark side Jedi Hunter is now making the leap to live action on Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi, premiering May 27th, and we were granted an exclusive audience with the man playing him, Rupert Friend. In his first sit-down interview discussing the role, Friend explains how the Grand Inquisitor's backstory makes him a worthy adversary for Jedi in hiding. The actor also goes into the character's relationship to other dark side figures, including how he might stack up in battle against Vader, and if this might just be the start of his Star Wars journey. So, the Grand Inquisitor actually does fight Vader in the comics, gets totally wiped. They fight in the Jedi Temple in the archives, and it's like not even really a fight. Okay, so let's begin. I mean, I don't know anyone that doesn't love Star Wars, to be honest. It's just the most richly textured, layered world that has possibly ever been created for us to enjoy. So the idea of getting to be a part of that world is just a complete boyhood dream come true. Which, yeah, I imagine, getting the role of Star Wars, pretty much any character in a official Star Wars movie is amazing. Let's start broad and then dive in a little more specific, but what can you tell us about the Grand Inquisitor, especially for people that maybe aren't familiar with his history from the animated series? Okay, so basically the Grand Inquisitor is the chief of the Inquisitors, and he reports directly to Darth Vader. He's a pretty powerful member of the dark side, and some people who aren't familiar with Star Wars may or may not know this, but he used to be a Jedi. He used to fight for the forces of good as a temple guard, and he also is one of the people who train Jedi in fighting styles. So he knows all the things that they know about fighting, and that makes him a pretty fearsome opponent. So this is the part that got me actually kind of upset. And you guys can let me know if I have any right to be upset here or not. Did you go back and watch any of the Star Wars Rebels to sort of see your character in animated form, or did you just want to kind of take it fresh with the live action? So like you playing a character that's already been established in a cartoon and has quite a story and quite an arc. You would imagine that, as an actor portraying this character for the first time in live action, you want to watch that animated series and see what that character is all about, what has he been through, which would help you in turn interpret the character and act as the character. I really wanted to honor the character as I saw him, and so I almost deliberately did not see the animated interpretation. Myself and director Deborah Chow and writer Dave Filoni and all of the guys really wanted to do something fresh that honored and was faithful to the spirit of the character without doing a kind of impression of anybody else's interpretation. So I understand, I'm not an actor, so I don't know, obviously he would know more than I. As a Star Wars enthusiast, I feel like you can't keep doing this, where you just go write a Star Wars project and not know much about what came before or know about the characters that you're talking about, that you're going to be writing about. It's kind of frustrating when you have a show as important as Kenobi and mind you, he might just portray it amazingly, right? We have Dave Filoni guiding him and directing him, so it's not like he really needs to watch the animated series, but I would imagine it really would help. You're given a big opportunity here to play quite a big character, a big villain, in arguably one of the biggest Star Wars projects of all time. I would imagine you would scrounge at every single scrap that you could find in order to be as equipped as possible when it comes to portraying the character that you've been hired to play. I just don't understand how he says that he wants to honor the character as he saw him, but it's not about how he sees him. It's about how he is, right? It's about how, who he turns into later on when we see him in Rebels. So I just, and again, with Dave Filoni kind of governing him and Deborah Chow directing him, I imagine it's fine and we probably won't even notice because they're going to say, no, do this or do that. So it's not like he really needs to, but it's just kind of interesting to me that Ewan and Hayden who are Anakin and Obi-Wan, them themselves went back and rewatched the prequels. They watched the Clone Wars. I mean, it just feels like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is not about how you interpret the character. It's about how the character actually is and how he's actually been written already. It's not about how you want to see him. Is his Jedi background something he's going to talk openly about using to hunt these Jedi down? All will be revealed in a couple of weeks, but I can say it really helped me have as my backstory this sense of awesome power and knowledge where he's effectively hunting the folks he once was. So he has all this insider information on them, and on the way, what they might fight or evade capture, and that just brought an enormous kind of feeling of power beneath the performance. Talk a little bit about his technique. This guy obviously very effective at what he does. How does he achieve his results? Obviously, he's the master of the Force, but to me, it's that economy of power that demonstrates a truly powerful figure. As in, he's not running around like a headless chicken chasing after people left, right, and center. There are plenty of lower minions who can do that. He's the one who's trusting the Force, trusting his gut, and he honestly, like a kind of expert rat catcher, just really feels he can sniff out any Jedi hiding anywhere, anytime. So if I were a Jedi and I were being hunted by this guy, I'd be pretty afraid. Tell me about the lightsaber. It looks awesome. So here's where we get to the flying. It's phenomenal. It's double-ended, as you've seen in some of the early release artwork. So he can use it with one or both of the ends. He can turn it into a whirling blade. He can fly with it. It's pretty kick-ass. What's lightsaber training like? Lightsaber training is amazing. I mean, the stunt guys on Star Wars are the best in the world. So every time you show up to play, as I call it, it's like playing in the best sandbox or the best adventure castle in the world. Because I think that everyone understands that people that fight with these techniques, people that have studied the way of the Jedi, there is a smooth, silent, deadly efficiency to everything. These are master swordsmen, masters of pretty much all the martial arts you could imagine rolled into one. So there's almost a ballistic quality about it that I find very, very beautiful. I want to talk about the look of the Grand Inquisitor because it's clearly striking. What was the makeup process like? Is that a combination of makeup and prosthetics? What's going on there, and how long did that take to get on you? Okay, so obviously this is something that us fans have been talking about for a while since we saw the trailer for Obi-Wan, and we saw the Inquisitor doesn't look like he's from Utapau. He's supposed to look like an Utapawan, right? He's supposed to have the long dome-like head, and he doesn't. He has more of like a round egg head. He says it was 4 hours a day, and I worked with the most incredible team of prosthetic artists as well as makeup artists as well as prosthetic makeup artists. So I had most mornings 6 hands on me from 3 in the morning until 7 when the rest of the gang arrived, and it was just such a thrill to see this extraordinary creation come to life before my eyes each morning from within my own head, if that makes sense. So my other question is, what happened to the eyes? Or like, does he get Sith eyes later in the show? That could be the reason, but he has them already. So we already know that that can't be. So what's the deal? Did they just like forget, or, I'm wondering. So here we go back to him not watching Rebels. Tell me about the voice. It's so ominous in that first trailer. How'd you work on the sound and coming up with how you wanted to give this character life through the voice? It was interesting because, as I say, I deliberately didn't want to sort of use anybody else's interpretation of this character. You mean the original character played by Jason Isaacs. So it was really something that I felt very instinctively when I read the script. And one of the lines that Joby Harold, the writer, had written was when the Grand Inquisitor speaks, he's a being who enjoys the sound of his own voice. That's a great... we all know people like that in real life. He's one of those guys who, if you didn't stop him, would just talk and talk and talk. And I'm not giving anything away by saying we're going to experience that in the show. He has this very juicy way of enjoying himself. And I just thought, what does the guy who enjoys the sound of his own voice sound like? And that's what we got. What was it like working with Moses Ingram and Sung Kang on Team Inquisitors? Oh, it was great. What a fearsome trio. When you see them in that second trailer coming off their jump ship, you can just feel the whole of Tatooine kind of cowering. But I also loved how the 3 Inquisitors are so distinct. Their weapons are different from each other. Sung has that incredible kind of helmet thing, and then Moses brought such an original take to her character, so we were a happy, bad gang. What is the Grand Inquisitor's relationship like with Darth Vader? In terms of, he's sort of the Grand Inquisitor and leading these Inquisitors, but if there's like the HR chart, you have Vader above him, so what's their relationship like? Not good. Well, obviously, with the rule of 2 in the HR chart, you've got the Emperor first, then you've got Vader. And I'd say the Grand Inquisitor is right there I wouldn't even say below. In his mind, he's on par with Vader. Okay. So in his mind, he's not. Obviously, Vader would probably kill him. Definitely. But I think it would be quite an interesting fight, because you've got this idea of a fearsome guy, this Grand Inquisitor who, yes, reports to Vader. And I do think he respects the hierarchy and the order of command, but I think if there were ever a slip-up, he would be waiting in the wings. Yeah, that's a perfect explanation. Yeah, that makes sense. We know the Grand Inquisitor is out there up until the time Star Wars Rebels, so has there been any talk about you potentially showing up elsewhere in the franchise beyond this series at some point? Is that something that's been discussed or you've thought about? So anyways, if you want to read the rest of this interview, you can go ahead. It's on the Entertainment Weekly website. But essentially, the Grand Inquisitor doesn't really, like in the comics, you see him fight Vader, and it obviously doesn't end well for him. And he also now comes back as kind of an eternal Sith ghost by Vader's design. Like Vader kind of entrapped him as a ghost to this one place, who ends up fighting Luke. It was a little bit interesting, a little weird, but kind of cool at the same time. So that's essentially the story and life of the Grand Inquisitor. But as for him playing in the Kenobi show, I just think it's kind of strange that Rupert, and of course Rupert knows what he's doing, but I just think it would be best if you were to watch Rebels and to know the character as best as you can. Like, imagine all of the information he has now from Dave Filoni, from the script, from all that, and added onto that what happens to the Inquisitor later on. What kind of a personality does he have? Like I think it's just very important. Like when Alden Ehrenreich was acting as Solo, obviously he would have to have the mannerisms of Harrison Ford, of Han Solo, the same cadence of speech. That's how you can link these two characters. And while the original trilogy is much bigger than Star Wars Rebels, I think it's also very important to the fans of Rebels and to the fans of the Grand Inquisitors to definitely watch the show and to get an overall idea and understanding of who this character really is, instead of just wanting to have your take on it, which, again, I'm not an actor, so I don't really know what I'm saying in that sense. I'm just coming at this from a Star Wars fan's point of view. But hey, we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, he seems to have a pretty good understanding of the Grand Inquisitor, and he had Dave Filoni and Deborah Chow there to corral him when need be. So I think, it is what it is. And like I've always said, I'm not here for the Grand Inquisitor. I'm not here for Reva. I'm not here for Uncle Owen. I'm here for Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Darth Vader, Anakin, and Obi-Wan. That's really the only reason I'm watching this show, is because it's centered around the most important characters of Star Wars, the main characters of Star Wars, in arguably one of the most influential times in Star Wars. 10 years after Episode 3 and 10 years before Episode 4. This is the meat of the matter. This is the heart of it, 10 years after Order 66. So I am very excited for the show. I just hope that the little things like this won't take us out of it. Like if there's him flying, how are they going to do that? That's going to look kind of like Mary Poppins, won't it? I hope it just doesn't take us out of the moment. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an amazing show, I think. I'm very excited for it. And I'm unbelievably looking forward to seeing Hayden return in Star Wars. And of course, Ewan. Those guys were really big for me as a kid. And now, and as a teen and everything. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think Rupert Friend should have watched Rebels? Or do you think his take on having a fresh start to the character is something that's going to benefit the show and benefit his portrayal of the Grand Inquisitor? Let me know in the comments. Hope you have a great day. And until the next one, remember, the Force will be with you always.